Get ready for the single most interesting topic on the planet. Hello, gals, and welcome to Sober Living Snippets, where we live alcohol-free so we can heal those relationships, feel youthful again, and ditch regret and shame. I was determined today to get through the tagline without giggling, but it was hard. I don't know what it is about the tagline that makes me want to giggle, and now here I am giggling afterwards. Oh, well, I guess it's one of those things we got to live with, or maybe change the tagline. Hello, gals. I'm Becca Jacobson, and I have a snippet for you. And I do have the single most interesting topic on the planet. But after I said that, I realized, no, it's the most interesting topic in the universe. Maybe all universes. Are you ready? We're going to talk about me. Me. I'm going to talk about me today. And you know, the truth is, we are the most interesting topic according to us. So you're the most interesting topic according to you, and I'm the most interesting topic. I mean, after all, that's what we think about all day long ourselves, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's perfectly natural. There's no way around it. Of course, we do want to intervene a little with putting ourselves on autopilot, me, and think of others and think of other things and do creative work. But we are concerned about ourselves, aren't we? But that's not why I'm going to talk about me. Let me give you some backstory here. So, okay, first of all, I want you to know something about me. I run my business mainly on intuition, which is infinitely annoying to my business coach. My business coach wants me to learn about statistics and looking at numbers and understanding trends in business. And I'm like, sort of staring blankly into like, what are you talking about? My tummy says this and my heart says that. And it's hilarious. But so I do what I'm told. I listen, I learn, I'm willing to learn. I really am. But for the most part, to me, the way I go through life, not just my business, is being led by the heart. I was never able to do this before, by the way. The way that I've learned how to do this over the last 5-7 years, it's all happened in sobriety, by the way, is through having a meditation practice and a connection to something bigger than myself, which I personally call God. Now, I don't talk a lot about God on the show because it brings up a different thought, feeling for everybody. And for some people, that's difficult, and I just don't want to go there. But for me, personally, it's a connection to God. Now, I believe all of us, we need a connection to something bigger than us, something we can rely on, something that we can trust, something that we can believe in that's bigger than us, something that created us even, right? So that could be universal intelligence. It doesn't matter. The way you think about it is entirely up to you, and it's beautiful. That's not the topic of this snippet, though, although that'd be a good one for another time. So for me, I have a meditation practice, and it's amazing to me what has come out of being consistent with my practice. And it's not just meditation, it's prayer. Before I turn this microphone on, I'm talking 10 seconds, will just close my eyes, take one deep breath, and say, guide me. You know, what do these gals need to hear? And it's working. So that's why I'm willing to listen to my business coach, but I don't completely let go of the intuition and the heart. I let my heart lead me. What do these women need? And I know that my heart is guided by God. So anyway, why are we talking about me today? I'm trying to get there. Bear with me. So my heart, my intuition, my gut feeling lately, about the last 3 weeks, has been, you know what? I must be nearing 400 episodes. Because I knew I was over 350. I just haven't looked at the stats, right? And so I thought, okay, you know what I'm going to do? Way back when I started the snippets in March of 2023, one of the first things I did was tell my story. And then I naively went forward for 2 years, assuming that anyone who listened to the snippets knew my story. But it doesn't work that way. Unless you go back 400 episodes or more, you won't hear it. And so I thought to myself, okay, it's time. So what I'm going to do is on my 400th episode, I'll retell my story. So this morning, I went and looked, well, which episode am I on? And I blew it, gals. I blew it. This is episode 411. So I missed it by 10 episodes, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. If you're new in Snippet Land and you're wondering who I am, today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. I am a Canadian woman. I'm going to be 60 this year. And I published my memoir, so I'm not going to go deep into nothing. Don't worry, this is a snippet, right? But in my 20s, actually from the age of 18 to 32, I was a prostitute. And then when I was 32, I went to college, and then I went to grad school, and I became an English instructor. So right out of grad school, I was hired at a small community college, about 6,000 students. By the time I was 38, I had that job. And I taught English for 20 years, and that brought me to 58. And right now I'm 59. So you now have the whole life. That's it. That's all of it, right? However, right, a lot of crap happens in all that time. 12 years, 12, 13 years as a prostitute, a lot happened. But the most important and significant thing I want you to know about is my relationship with alcohol over those years. If you're interested in my story of becoming a prostitute, being a prostitute, and getting out of prostitution, you can get my memoir. It's called Prostitute to Professor, A Guide to Radical Transformation. It's available on Amazon. Or, you know what else you could do? You can get the hard copy on Amazon. You can get a paperback or hardback book. But if you would like a free copy of my memoir, all you've got to do is send me an email, and I will send you the PDF. Free, absolutely free. So if you're interested in that, it's Becca at beccajacobson.com. Super easy. Becca at beccajacobson.com. Jacobson, S-O-N at the end, not S-E-N. So if you've got that written down, I'm going to move on. So I'm not going to talk a lot about that. It's in the book. I want to share with you about my relationship with alcohol. In my 20s, during that era, alcohol was every single day. It was just part of my life. I couldn't have actually done that work without alcohol and drugs. When I got to college, this is where it gets more relevant to you. I'm sure you can't relate to being a prostitute who drinks every day and, so let's get to the part you're more likely to relate to. In my 30s, I started college, and I immediately learned, okay, I obviously have to do something about my drinking, and discovered that I couldn't quit. Now, in my 20s, I tried to quit many, many, many times and couldn't. Mainly because I couldn't do that job. And so I discovered that I just couldn't do it. I tried, I went to detox, I went here, I went to 12 steps, I had a counselor. I tried and tried and tried, and I got sick of struggling. And so I just started binge drinking. So instead of drinking every day, I waited till the weekend. I was able to do that. I was able to binge drink. But this is not the same as moderating. Because when I say I drank on weekends, I mean I started on Friday after work and didn't stop till I passed out on Sunday night. Because I just couldn't stop drinking once I started. So anyway, here I am binge drinking through college and made it through with straight A's. Very painful way to live. And then I was hired immediately out of grad school at a community college and tried to quit. Don't get me wrong, I was trying to quit through all of this. And went over and started teaching and just continued the binge drinking. Well, at my 15th year at the college, this is right around when I turned 50, 48, 49, 47, somewhere in there. It just started, my drinking started getting worse and worse and worse, where my binges, I couldn't stop them. And I was binging, starting to drink midweek. And it was this is what happens, gals. We have to be very careful. As you age, if you're drinking, it's going to get worse. It gets worse. And you think the opposite would happen, but it doesn't. It gets worse. So in the fall of 2018, I came home for a long weekend. It was a long weekend, Thanksgiving in Canada. And I grabbed my usual bottle on the way home. I started drinking it that evening, and I went into a blackout, which I did all the time. I was blacking out all the time when I drank. I went into a blackout and stayed in the blackout for 8 days. Now, any of the regular snippet lovers probably know this story. Don't want to bore you with super depth here, but if you're fairly new, I don't actually know how it's possible to stay in an 8-day blackout, but I did. To be honest, I now come to the conclusion this was God's way of saying, listen, gal, if you're not going to figure this out, I'm going to do it for you. I just was gone for 8 days. I have zero memory of those 8 days. My husband said I had to ask him what happened, that I would drink until I passed out, wake up, immediately start drinking again, and pass out and wake up and pass out. And I wasn't going to bed and passing. I was passing out on the couch, under the table. Like I was just hammered for 8 days and passing out where, like, it was insane. So I've lost all of that. I have no memory of any of that. Of course, during those 8 days, I was supposed to be at work. I was teaching. So my students, meantime, are going to class. I'm not there. And they go to the dean and say, like, she's not there. So what's happened is now what I thought I was hiding is out, right? I've missed an entire week of work. So I hate telling this story, to be honest. First of all, I've told it too many times and it always just turns my stomach. But anyway, so when I woke up, when I came to out of that 8-day blackout and realized what had happened, I knew I had to do something, obviously. And in that moment, gals, something shifted. Because up until that moment, I was doing everything in my power to hide my drinking from work, from others, and just do my life and be the quote-unquote functioning alcoholic. And when I realized that I had lost an entire week of work, I couldn't think of it a lie. I'm like, what's the lie? I was sick. Well, if you're sick, you phone in sick. I mean, there was just no lie. There was no, I just knew I'm done. There's nothing, I'm done. That's it. I surrender. So I picked up the phone. I was so sick. I was shaking and shaking. I picked up the phone, phoned my immediate supervisor, who was the chair. And when she said, Becca, oh my God, where have you been? We were so worried. And what happened? And of course, right? And I just said, I need help. It's alcohol. And then I just went silent. And from that moment, I began my journey to recovery and sobriety. That's the moment that started my journey to be sitting here now, 7 years later, talking to you into this microphone. She went to HR. They put me on 4 months sick leave. I did 2 months in a residential treatment center, which sounds like jail. I did 2 months. It sounds like jail. Well, to be honest, it felt like jail. Like it was not my idea of a good time. I came out of there. I drank again. And my story is not a smooth one. It's not like I stopped drinking that day. You know, I didn't. It took me the first year to actually stop relapsing. I'd get a couple weeks and have a drink or two. Get a few weeks and drink again. And it was very painful and very difficult. And I'll tell you why it was so difficult. I did not have the path. I did not have the help. I did not have the support that I needed as a 50-plus professional woman struggling with alcohol. I talked to doctors, I talked to counselors, and every single one of them sent me to 12 steps or one-on-one counseling. That was the two offers. And neither of those were working. I have nothing against the 12-step program. I learned a lot there, but it was not my path. I always say on the snippets, we have to find the path that resonates with us if we're going to do this, because we can't be hating it. We can't be not drinking and trying to get sober and try to get help with a path that we just don't want to be there. If we don't want to be there, it's not going to work. And that's what it was like for me in the treatment center. And it was like that for me in the year or more afterwards. But somehow, despite the fact that I didn't like the path I was being offered, I picked up enough in the 12 steps. I picked up enough from that counselor that I managed to get some sobriety, and then it grew and grew. And then, you know, after I had a year of sobriety, and that's when I started looking around and going, there's a gap out there for professional women over 50, over 40, over 50, over 60 who are struggling with alcohol. Where is the pathway? And that's when I realized that this was my mission, that that's what I needed to do. I didn't know how. I was an English teacher, but I started learning. I thought, okay, let me find out. And of course, I went to good old Google, and the rest is kind of, as they say, history. But I didn't know I'd be podcasting. I didn't know what I'd be doing. I just thought, I want to help women. I mean, the first thing I did, of course, was I went to Google and I found training for sobriety coaching. So that, because to me, I'm a teacher and I'm an educated. So to me, the way you learn something is you go and get an education on it. So that's what I did. I took the training, months of training to become a coach, a life coach, and then beyond that, specifically a sobriety coach. But at the end of that, there was still more to learn. It was like, well, okay, now how do I find these women? How do I get them hearing my voice? You know, do I just put an ad on Google and hope it works? Do I build a website? Like, how do I do this? And somebody came along on my journey. It's all God, by the way. I know that everything that happens in my life is guided, that everything that's put in my path is put there for my best interest so that I can do what I was meant to do on this planet. And this woman said to me one day, you should start a podcast. And I went, what? But she planted a seed. And from there, I started researching that. And how do you do that? And what does that look like? And would I be any good at it? And what would the show be like? And who, all of that. And one day I turned on the microphone and just started talking. And I realized, geez, I'm comfortable doing this. And then women started listening. And then I'd hear back that they enjoyed it. And I thought, okay, let's keep going. All this was in the early 2023. And I'm like, well, apparently they like it. And now look at us. Snippet Land is growing every day. And I'm just so blown away by it all. It's not me, gals. When we're ready, the teacher appears. And when we're ready, the guidance for where we're supposed to go in this life will come. If we learn how to get quiet enough and open our hearts to something bigger than us, the path will open itself. But I'm telling you right now, it can't if we're drinking. It's blocked if we're drinking. The only way that God, the God that I understand, could get me to wake up was to plunge me into an 8-day blackout. Because I just kept thinking over and over, I'm managing this, I'm managing this, I'm managing this. Even though it was hell, because I was sick all the time. So as long as you're drinking, if you're wondering, well, where do I get some real joy out of this life? We've had our children, we have our partners, some of us do, some of us don't. We have careers. But if you're not passionate about any of it and you're wondering, well, Becca says she has a mission. Do I have a mission? My answer to that is, yeah, you do. Each and every one of us is put here on this planet for a reason. That doesn't mean you're going to be out there in the public eye. Maybe you are. Maybe you have something to share with the world. I don't know. But you'll never know if you're drowning it in alcohol. And that's why the journey to sobriety includes learning how to get quiet, learning who you are, through meditation, through journaling, through sharing. This is what it's all about, gals. It's about more than just getting sober. Who are you and what were you meant to do? If you're numb from alcohol, I want you to know that there's something waiting to happen. And you can open a pathway to let it through and open up your beautiful life. Gals, thanks for letting me share my story today. It's out there again. I'll do it again on episode 800. Okay, so let's just keep going. And I'll show up around 800 or when the intuition nudges me, it's time, I'll do it again. But for now, we are at snippet length and I am done. But before I go, I'm going to remind you that if you want a copy of my book, all you've got to do is email me at beccajacobson.com and I'll send it right over for free. And at the same time, I'll send you the Sober Living letters, and so that I can continue to support you in other ways, so that I can send you guides that I create checklists, I create resources for you, and I send them out via email. So today's the day Today is your day to shoot me an email at Becca@BeccaJacobson.com. Say hello. Tell me you heard my story and ask for my book. I look forward to hearing from you. See you tomorrow. Thanks for popping in. Be sure to come back tomorrow so we can keep your head on straight. Sending you buckets of love.